There is something major that I think is kind of falling under the radar for a lot of NASCAR fans. Comcast, which was the owners of USA Network and currently owns NBC and NBC Universal, is making universal changes and major moves. They say, quote, that Comcast will announce the spinoff of cable networks Wednesday, sources say. And to kind of put this in perspective, a spinoff is when a provider basically offloads the ownership of a channel to somebody else or just in general. The channel could do anything. It could continue as normal, just a new ownership, or it could be not exactly the same or just completely discontinued. And what does this all have to do with NASCAR? Well, you might have noticed I said they formerly owned the USA Network, which is where 9 NASCAR Cup Series races are set to be broadcast for 2025, as well as every year through 2031. Comcast, basically NBC, is dropping CNBC, MSNBC, the E! Channel, Oxygen, Sci-Fi, Golf Channel, and the biggest one for us NASCAR fans is, of course, if you haven't guessed, the USA Network. Now, to me, this opens up these channels to have a lot of different things happen to them. They will probably be sold in some way, but they also could be merged or changed from their current form. If you've seen channels before, maybe like the old military channel that got changed into a different network, well, that's exactly the same as could happen with any of these channels. It was interesting that they made a point to say that the Bravo channel would remain with NBC Universal due to the close content and the back and forth they have with Peacock, wanting to consolidate a lot of their shows and different entertainment products there. And this is going to take place all through next year. So again, what does this all mean for us NASCAR fans? Well, you got to put in perspective too, in general, of the direction things are going. It was said in the article, this was reported in by CNBC, that it's expected that the sports content should be shared with the spinoff networks, at least for the short term. That means that I don't think in 2025 we have anything to worry about. It's going to be the same places that it's supposed to be. But 2026, 7 and beyond, that's another story. The future, in my opinion, is once again in question for both TV and 2026 and beyond when it comes to NASCAR. We're going to start maybe having to guess what these giant corporations are wanting to do with their channels and products in order to know where we want to go to watch our sport. Now, they did say that NASCAR should remain on USA for 2025 in the foreseeable future, but that does not mean that they can't just change it on a whim. Look what they did when they shut down the NBC Sports Network channel. That was a huge change, and it's the reason we're on USA Network right now. NASCAR's contract with NBC and Comcast will have 4 races on NBC next year, with 9, basically a quarter of the schedule, on USA in 2025. And while they might have it on 2025's USA Network docket, I guess is the best way to put it, there are a few ways that this could go. Now, wishful thinking says, since NBC doesn't own it, maybe they'll pull these off of USA and put more races on big NBC. Trust me, I wish that were the case. I really don't think that that's the way they're going to go with it. I think at best we're going to have the same amount of NBC races and USA stays the same for a bit. The nightmare scenario is they put a bunch of races on Peacock. It's clear that Comcast is really wanting to get Peacock to work, and it's not right now. A lot of their properties have left, and the streaming service in general is glitchy and just doesn't connect very well. The realistic one, though, is that NASCAR in the future could be put on many channels. Maybe there would be a few more NBC races, especially towards the end of the season, if they changed maybe some of the start times and worked it out with other properties. But I would not be surprised if in the near future we're seeing NASCAR races on the Bravo channel, which is a huge, huge step down. And I would also not be surprised if they pay NASCAR a little more, or if NASCAR plays ball with them, if they just full on go on to Peacock for a couple races. And trust me, that's not going to be popular whatsoever. In my opinion, the fans are going to lose out no matter what on this whole deal, because this is not something that can be sustainable, having your future in question. I want to put this in perspective, just a little bit moving forward of all of this. Cable cutting and cord cutting, it's clearly here, and this is a clear showing of it. They can try and spin it however they want, pun intended, but you do not sell off a bunch of cable networks. You don't push all of these assets to somebody else and then sort of figure it out as you go. If these assets are working, if they're doing well and they're making you a ton of money and a ton of profit. They said it makes them a ton of money, but what's the profit margins in all of this? It shows that cable is dying. And to put it in perspective, CNBC in their article even admitted that Comcast has lost 4 million cable subscribers in 2024 alone. Streaming, well, they have winners like Prime, but they have losers. And right now, Peacock and Comcast, they're losers. They got behind. They did not optimize everything, and they tried to play basically old ball with a new product, and it didn't work. And now they're clearly trying to consolidate things to prop it up. Why does this matter for NASCAR fans? Well, because if the company that you have tethered yourself to for the next 7 years is wanting to do this, you're probably going to get dragged into a lot of it. And NASCAR doesn't have the bargaining power it had at the start of the last contract in 2015 to say, no, we're popular enough to stay off this. Quite frankly, NASCAR isn't. There's a lesson here, and it is not always to take the money. Sometimes you need to take accessibility. They took money over all else, and because of this, they may pay the price in this contract. Every IndyCar race this coming year is going to be on the big Fox network. No one is going to be missing any IndyCar coverage. Qualifying will be on there for the Indy 500. All the races will be on there. And yeah, this season probably had to get a little compacted because of this, but the series overall through exposure is almost certainly going to gain through this. NASCAR took the money to take more cable races and streaming. And while streaming is a platform that is growing, especially with Prime, cable is a dying product. And it's clear through all of their actions that these networks are desperate. The amount of money that they paid NASCAR, a product that has lost about half its viewership since the last contract started, well, that just shows it. They are desperate for live content to try and bring people in. And at this point, I got to say, I'm a little worried about it in the long term. I think that USA will probably stay around for the NASCAR side of it for a year or two, but with new ownership and the new way of running it, I don't know how long that NASCAR can put up with that before they're going to have to either put more races on big NBC, put it unfortunately on the Bravo channel or the Peacock network of streaming, and maybe even offload some of the other races before Daytona to TNT, because that could be something that they do. There is going to be some real changes in this, and I think NASCAR signed what looked to be an okay contract a few years ago is now probably a really bad deal for them, especially in the second half of the season. So I'm hoping they figure it out. I'm hoping that we don't have to worry about our future as NASCAR fans of where we have to watch, but just know it could be on the horizon. So with that, I want to know what you think. Where do you think NASCAR is going to be shown if USA ends up gone? Or do you think USA will stick around like they say and we have nothing to worry about? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like in this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel for more great and fun NASCAR content. Thank you so much to my channel members for your continued support. And be sure tonight to check in. We're going to be doing a live stream. You guys basically are running it, deciding your dream NASCAR schedule. So if you think that's fun, come check it out. And until then, have a good one.